All right. Okay. So quickly, we can see early childhood education in Nigeria, and quickly go over the general definition of early childhood education. So, there is a general definition of early childhood education, and we can see it as a form of education given to children within the early years. We can also see that in early childhood education, we call it preschool. Yes, these are the various outline. We're going to look at early childhood education. Sorry, I said before that early childhood education in Nigeria, we see it as a formal education given to children from 3 to 5 years. That's in preparation for their primary school. We also see early childhood education as various means and names that we give them. We have a pre-primary education. We also call them nursery education. We also call them daycare or preschool. Some even call them kindergarten. So now bringing it down to Nigeria, what is early childhood education in Nigeria? We see it as a critical time in children's behavior and in children's development. We see it as a starting point for a child's development and is a key foundation of early childhood education in Nigeria education system. We also see that English is predominantly used in schools. We use indigenous languages in teaching children just for better understanding. The age range for preschoolers in Nigeria is between the age of 3 through 5 years. But most times, parents put their children in school before specified age, especially working class mothers. We see children here being put in schools as early as 1 year old, especially in daycare and nursery schools. That's when their parents have to go to work or they're busy. Now we also see the characteristics of early childhood education. We see that at this stage, the children are learner focused. That's the children here are seen as the targeted audience in the school. We also see another characteristics of language rich and dialogics. Here, communication are done by students, the young children, extensively to the best of their own ability. Another characteristics of early childhood education is also playful. Playfulness is necessarily not being naughty, as learning can be done through play. We also have narrative. A typical example of narrative as a characteristics is storytelling, circle time, and all that. We also have age appropriate pedagogies. Um, Teaching and learning here is done in accordance to the children's age. Now we see here that there are qualifications and trainings that are needed by these teachers for them to be able to get the job as an early childhood educator. So the first one is completion of secondary school is required. For you to be an early childhood educator, you must have completed your secondary school education. We must have completed at least 2 to 4 years program, college program in an early childhood education, or a bachelor degree in child development is required. It's also very important that you are experienced in childcare and also licensed by a territorial association for early childhood education. That is also required. Now, there are various qualifications and trainings. We have NIEC. NIEC is National Association of Early Years, and this is not just in Nigeria. This is certification for early childhood across the world. But the one that is limited to Nigeria is ECAN, ECAN, that's Early Childhood Association of Nigeria. And they're also general license for teachers. So we're going to our next slide, um, which is career opportunities. So there are various career opportunities. I just listed a few of them that are open for students in early childhood education. The first one, we have childcare teacher and teaching assistant. Childcare teacher and teaching assistant. We also have a childcare center director or coordinator. We have a church nursery attendant. We have a school administrator. We have family care child home provider, family child care home provider. That's you work in the family. We also have special education teachers for children with special needs, like autism, Down syndrome, Asperger, and so on and so forth. We have researcher or writer in early childhood education. We also have child guidance specialists. So you have to be a specialist in child guidance, like guidance and counseling of children. We also have child development specialists. Thank you, Sergeant. Child development specialists. And lastly, I have instructor, curriculum specialist, and developer. So these are just few of the career opportunities in early childhood education. Then we are moving on to the critics of early childhood in Nigeria. Just as other factors, we should know that there are also critics in early childhood education in Nigeria. We have lack of qualified teachers. We have implementations of native tongue in early childhood education. Since English is predominantly used, children, especially the ones in rural areas, have difficulty in learning because most of them even don't understand English. We also have negligence from the government. We see here that governments pay little or no attention to early childhood education, as their main focus are always, high school or college. So little attention is paid by the government to early childhood education. We also have lack of professional development. Now, in Nigeria, we see that some teachers lack trainings, exposure. Most of them don't even attend conferences, workshops, and are always satisfied with their present qualifications. The next one there we have staff child ratio. I said this earlier on. The ratio of children to students can be overly outrageous. In terms of in a classroom, we have about 30 to one teacher, or about 25 children to one teacher, which is not to be so. And we also have lack of adequate funding. Governments, especially in government schools, hardly give funds, which leads to bad equipment in class, lack of textbooks, poor payment of teachers in early childhood education. And lastly, we have lack of supervision. We have proper supervision by government will help a lot in early childhood education. Then if there are proper fundings for schools and decrease in child ratio, staff child ratio, the appropriate ratio for teacher child ratio in a classroom should be 10 or maximum 15. And lastly, we have professional development. So as teachers or educators, develop themselves personally and also professionally. So I think this is the end of the slide here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary. Very nicely done. And I think this is the first time she got used to making a PPT, and very nicely made. All the slides are so well done, and I think we get a very good overview of what happens with early child education in Nigeria. I would request some of you to have questions pertaining to this. And Mary is studying. She's a specialist on education system. That's her course material. That's what she's graduating into. So she understands education better than a normal person. If you have questions for Mary, it'll be nice. One or two questions if you have time, Mary.
Yes, sir.
So Science Lane and others, Arshi, whoever is here, please, you can have few questions which you would like to know about Nigerian education system, particularly child education, right? Early child. That is what we call kindergarten here, or we call nursery here, or
Yes,
preschool.
sir.
There also they use the
Yes.
same words. Yes. Okay. One question, Mary. I'll start with the question. Then maybe we'll have others also pitching in. So, how many people, how many families go for early child education? Is it across the board, or it is only a certain percentage of people who can afford it, or who are conscious enough to send their children, 2 years, 3 year children into preschool education? What is the percentage like?
Few families, yes. Few families send their children to
Few
to
family,
study early childhood
not
education or
this is not.
education in general. Yeah.
So how costly is the entire EC? Is it government funded, or is it that it is only private nursery schools? Anyone has any other questions? Azlin, can you have one question so that then we can sort of wind this up by Mary?
My question, the questions I had was, what is the support that the government has given so far? Because all of these problems that she mentioned would be solved if the government supported them slightly. Just wanted to know what has been their, how have they supported?
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay, for the question of Sanjali's question, I said very few centers are supported by government. We have about 95% of the early childhood centers in Nigeria that are private sectors. So very few centers are government oriented. So most of the early childhood education centers we have in Nigeria are either private sectors or run by non-governmental organization or religious organization in the country.
So okay, that's an interesting thing, because from what I get from here, 5%, at least 5% is government funded. I think in India we do not have ECE funded by government at all. Any idea? Anyone? We do have Anganwadis, but those are not exactly ECs. Anganwadis are more about food and go home. Um, Anyone has any idea on that? Sanjalin or Arshi or anyone who's connected with that? We do not have ECE. That means preschool, play schools. We do not have government funded in India. And Nigeria, it's interesting to see that at least there is some bit of it. Here, our schooling starts from, depending on state to state, but certainly not play schools. Play schools are not from the government. So it's something similar, but then they do have something. That's what Mary is saying, right? Okay, so that's about it. Thank you, Mary, so much for bringing out this to us. It's nice to see, and lot of issues are similar to India: staff-child ratio and educate funding. We do not. It's all private here, and of course, we do have a lot of kindergarten training, and only trained people are taken. But then there are all sort of things. Somnath sir has got some idea about it. Sir, Somnath, are you there? Okay, and here government doesn't control it also. I think there's not much of a control also. It's
Yes,
just a
Dinesh ji.
private sector endeavor.
Right.
These
Can you hear me?
pre-toddlers and other play schools, I think you're talking some the other day about it and how bad the situation is here also.